So with this, I would like to invite His Excellency Ambassador Penjor to say a few words about whatever you feel is worthwhile about Bhutan, about our relations, and let me see whether I technically manage. I have prepared one slide. While you talk, maybe I will just show it. So please, the floor is yours. You can.
Thank you.
From here.
Thank you, Dr. Kuzu Zambola. The outset, if I may firstly share with you, this is a long-awaited visit for me. Ever since I joined the Foreign Ministry way back in 1992. Of course, diplomatic relations were only established recently, but way back in 1992 itself, I mean, a partnership with Germany started way back in 1975. I was about just born then, about 5 years old then. But in 1992, as a young officer, I joined the Foreign Ministry, and there's always been my dream. At some point of time, we will have my relations with Germany. And so we've had, and I have the honor to be the first ambassador of Bhutan to your beautiful country. So for me, this is a very, very special honor to be here today to address this very august gathering.
Here's the slide I prepared.
Thank you. It was a very proud moment to see our flag being posted, and it was very emotional for me. And I stood there to see our flag fly, after I presented my credentials. So I just wanted to share how very special moment this is for me. If I may take this opportunity to firstly, of course, convey the warm greetings of His Majesty the King of Bhutan, the government and the people of Bhutan, to all our dear friends here in Germany as we celebrate this very special day. Allow me, if my friends, to there's so much of things to talk about today, all that's happening in the world. But for me, I think today's topic is very important for Bhutan right now. And if you allow me, I'd like to just reflect on some of our achievements of the past, also on the new imperatives that we have in what is a very rapidly changing world, in an effort to just put today's very important discussions into context. I'm not an expert in Tibet. There's a lot of passion for education, but I'm not an expert in anything. As Dr. Rana said, we have Honorable Secretary who will be elaborating details of what is exactly happening in the Tibet sector in Bhutan. And of course, we have many distinguished experts here in Germany who will also be sharing their perspectives. So with this, if you allow me, many of you all, I don't have to actually share much of this. You're all very long association with Bhutan. You'll know in 1961, we were literally just starting our development process. We had no infrastructure, no education, no health system, no roads, no electricity. We were pretty much a subsistence agrarian economy. I think we did not even have a currency then. That's where we started off in 1961. 6 decades later, of course, with the enlightened leadership of our successive monarchs, guided by the development philosophy of gross national happiness, and of course, very importantly, the very strong partnership we've had with countries like Germany. Bhutan today stands confident as we embark on a new journey in the 21st century. In the context of our socio-economic sectors, the socio-economic development process, as you know, in Bhutan, we've taken great pride in investing in the social sectors. So health and education in Bhutan, despite being a least developed country, it's free. We continue to provide it free. Between 2007 and 2017, just to share the achievements we've made as far as poverty reduction is concerned, in a matter of a decade, we have reduced poverty from 36% to 12%. In terms of the actual GDP growth rate, since the 1980s, we've averaged about 7.5% GDP growth rate. Very impressive in terms of, at least in our part of the world. In terms of per capita GDP, Bhutan now stands at almost $3,200. And with this, we are very happy to share that even despite the very, very serious challenges posed by the pandemic, we are committed to graduate from the least developed country category status from 2023. So we will be joining the so-called group of middle-income countries. And hopefully 10, 15 years down the line, when Nange comes here as the new ambassador, she will be sharing that we have joined the group of developed countries. Politically, I don't have to share with you all, but I just thought I'd share this very important development for us. As you know, we've now established a strong and vibrant democracy in Bhutan. Since the adoption of the constitution in 2008, we've had 3 successive elections. And I think Bhutanese seem to have a penchant for changing governments because we've had 3 different governments. So that, and with the building of capacities at the local government, and also a very strong and independent media and civil society being established in Bhutan, I'm very happy to say that the strengthening of this democratic process is going really right down to the grassroots. So this is another achievement that we take great pride in Bhutan. In the international sphere, I mean, we are a small, despite being a small country, despite our limited resources, we've always, ever since we became a member of the UN in 1971, Bhutan has always strived to work constructively with other member countries to fulfill our responsibilities as a member of the United Nations. In this context, allow me to share in 2 very important fields that despite the lack of resources and our small size, how we've tried to contribute. One, as you're all aware of, is in the field of environment and climate change. Way before the word sustainable development was a fashion or even considered important in the international development agenda, Bhutan already had environment conservation as a key pillar in our development process. But as far as the specific challenge of climate change is concerned, Bhutan took a very big step, actually, a unilateral step during the Copenhagen summit in 2009, when we declared our commitment to remain carbon neutral in perpetuity. We've, of course, surpassed that commitment. Today, I understand Bhutan is the only carbon negative country in the world. So this is another contribution that we take pride in as a small country in our responsibility in contributing to the international community. Another important area is in the area of peace and security. And I think you'll agree with me with what's happening in today's world. This is something that's fragile and something that cannot be taken for granted. Bhutan, in our own small way, have been working with the United Nations since 2014 in the UN peacekeeping operations around the world. Since our commitment to join the UN in peacekeeping operations in 2014, we have sent over 200 military and police personnel in various peacekeeping missions around the world. This is the commitment that Bhutan now is very we feel very strongly about. And in this regard, very happy to share that in 2017 we were the first country to sign the rapid deployment level agreement with the UN in 2017. And as a result of this commitment that we've made to the UN, we're very happy to report that we will be sending our first contingent, 180 peacekeepers, to the Central African region in June, July this year. So this is another achievement we feel, one of the contributions that we take great pride in. So having very broadly shared, the achievements that we've made, I thought it's good to take stock of it. We must take pride in our past. We must take pride in achievements. But as a small country with less than 800,000 people and situated in what we all know is a very sensitive geopolitical area in Asia, we feel it's imperative to take stock of where we are and where we need to be going, particularly in a very rapidly changing world. Here today, we find ourselves on the cusp of a new century with new challenges and new opportunities. We feel that to build on our past achievements, and I think more importantly, to ensure our survival and also contribute success for the generations to come, we must prepare for a future that's dramatically different from the past as well as the present. Evidently, we feel that the next century is being defined by accelerated change in all aspects of our lives because of rapid technological advancements and globalization. So in this context, as such, while we have many compelling national priorities, our highest priority for Bhutan today is the transformation of our education sector. In this context, we in Bhutan are radically rethinking education and have started the process of reforming the entire spectrum of the education system to achieve standards and goals which are of the highest possible order. In this context, I'd like to share what His Majesty shared in the Royal Decree on Education Reforms on 17th of December 2020. And I quote, "Such an aspiration, the very ambitious education reform aspiration, such an aspiration is not an expression of misplaced idealism. Rather, it is founded on the strength of conviction that our survival as a sovereign state will depend on the physical, emotional, psychological, intellectual, and moral make of our children, and indeed their competencies. The new vision for our education system must encompass the drive to create enlightened citizenship that is as much local as it is translocal. This can only strengthen the quality of our democracy and secure our sovereignty," unquote. Here I'm pleased to report that a time-bound Council of Education Reform, currently even as I speak, involving various stakeholders from the government, the private sector, education institutions, civil societies, as well as many of our partners outside, are actually working on a roadmap to support this very, very monumental task for not just the present government, but what I believe successive governments to come. Having said this about education, we also recognize that it is not merely enough to transform our education system and impart 21st century competencies, but it is equally important to create relevant jobs and economic opportunities for our youth. While the hydropower sector, as you all know, which has driven much of our economy, has provided a reliable source of growth, job creation for our youth outside the hydropower sector, the public sector, tourism and agriculture has been severely limited. According to the National Statistical Bureau of Bhutan, over the next 2 decades, we are poised to reap what we call is the high demographic dividend due to a substantial increase in youth into the labor force. I'm told that almost 60% of our population is below the age of 25. It's a very young population that we have. And as they say, our window of opportunity to reap the demographic dividends is the next 2 decades. However, reaping such demographic dividends will require not just increasing the productivity of youth through skilling, reskilling, and upskilling, but it will also depend on the successful diversification of our economy for gainful employment. So the concomitant creation of a technology and knowledge-based economy is another underlying priority for Bhutan today, and hence emphatically being embedded into our plans and policies. So it's against this backdrop, even during my recent visit to Berlin, during all my meetings, I've shared Bhutan seeks to enhance our bilateral cooperation with Germany, especially in education and in the Tibet sector, and also importantly, expand such cooperation into new areas of economic, technology partnerships that will support Bhutan's transition to a green and knowledge-based economy, including through the targeted promotion of green and ethical foreign direct investments from Germany to Bhutan. During my recent visit to Berlin, we have requested the support of the Federal Foreign Office, the officials from the BMZ, and the Ministry of Economy to reach out to various agencies, organizations and institutions, not just in government, but in the private sector. For example, like the Frankfurt Chamber, to support Bhutan in these 2 very, very important goals. In the context of our education reform, a vital pillar as we all know, is the TVET sector. Here, the government is currently undertaking a comprehensive review and developing a strategic plan of action to transform the TVET sector to ensure that skills imparted are aligned and adapt to the needs of industry. And I understand we will be hearing from the Honorable Secretary Tashutashi Wangmo later on in the evening, who will elaborate on the details of the ongoing work back in Bhutan. As part of this reform process, I think we've already reached out to many of you all. We've already piloted a few programs in Bhutan, the Skills Development Program, the Build Bhutan Program, and the Desu Skilling Program. So these are pilot projects to jumpstart, to also, instead of waiting for, documents and reports, we felt we needed to start doing things on the ground. So we started off with these pilots. We've reached out to many of you all here in Europe, including in Germany. And here we are very, very greatly appreciative of the craftsmen that we were able to send with the support of the Frankfurt Chamber, as well as our friends here in Germany. I think we are five or six in total who went to Bhutan in the last 2 years, despite the COVID. And the feedback I received was they were very happy with the visit. It was a very successful visit, but more importantly, in fact, now we are looking to expand that. We are looking to expand what they have started in the years ahead. And the embassy is already engaged in discussions with the Frankfurt Chamber of Crafts. So here I would like to once again thank the 5 friends from Germany who visited Bhutan despite the COVID on this very, very important assignment. I'd like to also share that we in Bhutan, of course, goes without saying, remain very deeply grateful to Germany for the assistance and support we've received, as I mentioned, way back in the 1970s. Given the significant impact of German assistance to Bhutan on the lives of Bhutanese people, the Royal Government has requested the federal government to consider reinstating Bhutan in the list of program countries for German bilateral assistance. I don't know how successful I will be this, but that is one of my key tasks.
We cross fingers.
Here I would like to share during my recent visits, based on instructions from my government. We've already begun working on visits from Germany, an official visit from the government. What we have requested is delegation also include people from the private sector, people from the education institutions. And this is something that the embassy will work on as soon as possible. Good thing, the response I got was very, very positive. So I feel that this visit should happen soon. We'll definitely be in touch with our friends here in Bhutan to see how we can, not just make it a government delegation, but also include people from the private sector as well as the civil society organizations. In conclusion, I would like to, of course, firstly thank our dear friends here at the German Bhutan Himalaya Society. I'd also like to take the opportunity to thank the Frankfurt Chamber of Crafts for hosting us here today, and to all of you, dear friends, for the support that you have very, very generously given to Bhutan over the years. Bhutan, we are indeed, of course, very fortunate to have friends such as you who give your time and energy to support us in the spirit of true partnership. And on behalf of the government and people of Bhutan, I would like to thank each one of you for your enduring goodwill and friendship. Danke schön and Tashtile.